Welcome to Nerds Amalgamated, a podcast that covers the latest events in science, pop culture, and gaming.
I'm the professor, aspiring game developer, sci-fi aficionado, and completely and undeniably a geek trying to take over the world. I'll be breaking down the news from tech to gaming.
I am the DJ, a humble nerd, a big weeb,
and a watcher from the halls of the multiverse.
Just kidding. Anyways, I'll be breaking down all things comics to movies to anime.
Join us and stay hydrated as we quench you with witty banter, unintentionally hilarious hot takes, and trivia more fun than a night at the pub, courtesy of Nerds Amalgamated.
And welcome to another episode of Nerds Amalgamated. I am the DJ, and with me today I have the professor.
You know, you just told them who you were in the intro.
I know. I just love the old. Love to go back to the old ways at times, you know, just for nostalgia's sake. How are you, by the way?
I'm fine.
You managed to fix your computer?
Seems to be working.
What was
Nothing's gone wrong since then, so...
So it hasn't blown up or anything like that?
No, it hasn't blown up. It's not Intel.
Okay. Have you seen the
newest... To be fair, it was AMD blowing up last year, so...
Although, have you seen the new Intel chip that came out the other day?
Yeah, the first one using their new naming system.
Yeah.
That is advertised as being weaker than the previous one, but a lot more power efficient.
Uh-huh.
Which I'm not complaining about, because power consumption is going through the roof.
Yeah. I'll grant you on that one. Although it's gonna be interesting how much the pricing system is gonna be like when it hits Australian shores.
Yeah.
As for me, I'm just finished reading the the final chapter of Jujutsu Kaisen. It ended, and I'm a bit bummed out with the ending. It was so rushed. Felt so rushed. What happened? Why is it so rushed? And yeah, I've seen a couple of Instagram videos about this, saying like, oh, they have to do this because of criterias they have to meet with the contracts and all that, and I'm just going, maybe it's just out of spite.
I think you're reading into it too much.
Yeah. So a lineup for this week, we have the Nobel Prize winners of 2024, game piracy and its costs, and industry veterans questioning Hollywood's direction. So did you know we had a Nobel Prizes this year?
Yeah, I've been following them.
Yeah? What do you think of this year's awards?
It feels like every category is just another excuse to give an award for something related to AI.
Oh yeah, like I'm seeing some of them. Some of them are interesting though, like the medicine, like for physiology and medicine, for example, the discovery of microRNAs.
Yeah, that one's an interesting one.
Yeah.
But why don't you tell us what microRNA is?
Aren't they just RNAs just much smaller in actuality?
Yeah, you didn't read the article, you're just guessing here, aren't you?
No, actually I'm looking at Google here, and they say it's a small, highly conserved non-coding RNA molecules involving in the regulation of gene expression. That's what Google is saying to me.
Okay.
But yeah, they just but so for this one, it's talking about the contributions of microRNA, including cancer and heart disease, and understanding these will expand the potential for innovative therapeutic approaches to complex medical conditions. What else is there? Then there was the Physics Award, which is basically the use of statistical physics concepts in the development of artificial neural networks.
Yeah, well, the artificial neural networks are basically the predecessor to modern LLM AI.
Okay. So
that's the thing about the Nobel Prizes. A lot of the time, the thing they're awarding happened a decade ago.
So it's just recognizing their works years afterwards, just going, oh yeah, they did this a decade ago, so we're gonna recognize it.
They also want to take things that have been done and make sure that they actually have an impact. Because think of how many times you've seen an article about a new type of battery, and here we are still using lithium ion.
I mean, damn,
it's going to take another decade for us to find out which of those new batteries is actually going to make it to market and be really innovative.
I mean, they're not as crazy. They're not. They don't have that pizzazz, like Elon Musk with his version of how to make batteries look cool in a sense. Like what he did with in Adelaide a few years back.
Yeah, the grid stabilization battery in South Australia.
Yeah. How he made it look,
Which,
yeah,
how did they make it look cool?
like with all the fanfare and the
Oh, so marketing.
yeah, the marketing side of it. Yeah.
No, it is a very useful piece of tech. It basically allows the one of the big problems was that the interstate links would go down,
Yeah.
and that would cause things to trip and cut off power to South Australia, even though they have their own internal generation there. So the battery basically gives time for the links to go down and then the local generation to kick in without dropping power to the customers.
Yeah. Uh, let's keep going. So we have the chemistry award, which was awarded to David Baker, the Demis Hassabis, and John Jumper, for their work in predicting and designing the structure of proteins.
Yeah, these are the AlphaFold guys, aren't they?
I think so.
Basically, they developed software that can be run on consumer computers and distributed it all around the world so that everyone could join in to contribute computing power. I've spoken about SETI at home before, but this one, I think it was called Folding at Home,
Yeah, yeah.
is the same sort of idea, but applied to chemistry rather than looking for aliens.
Yeah. By the way, you are right. This is from the AlphaFold guys, and I think, and two of them are from Google DeepMind in London. They are from, yeah, you're right. They are from AlphaFold. What else was there? What else is there? The Nobel Prize for Literature. It goes to Han Kang for intense poetic prose, focusing on historic traumas, violence, and fragility of humanity. And the biggest of them all, the Nobel Peace Prize, goes to Nihon Hidankyo, which is the organization for its efforts to imagine and achieve a world free of nuclear weapons through elevating the voices of those who survived the Hiroshima and Nagasaki atomic bombs. By the way, the organization, that name is shortened. Actually, the real name is the Japan Confederation of A and H Bomb Sufferers Organization. But with the winners from the chemistry, physics, and medicine awards, my thought is always those whoever wins these awards always set the direction of where the science world is going to go to. And what you said about I reckon that's what's going to happen. Like AI has made is going to make huge strides after this award ceremony, I believe.
I think it's already made huge strides. As limited as it is, it's still like there's a difference between what the people who actually develop the AI
Hmm.
and the people who are marketing the AI say. And
Okay.
I think it has already made significant strides. It's not as capable as the people who market it say it is, but I think we'll see more Nobel Prizes in the next few years going to AI developers.
Yeah. And I don't know whether you also saw, and I know I spoke about Elon Musk today, but did you also see the androids that came out this morning? The Elon Musk robots.
No, I haven't seen that yet.
You haven't seen
But
that?
that does remind me of a few years ago when the Tesla Android was just a guy in a morph suit.
There's a new one. It's called the Tesla Optimus robot, and they look they look freaky.
I don't see how they're freaky.
Just the way they walked in unison. That's all I can say. Like I posted the supercut from CNET on the show notes. You can have a look there. I reckon AI and robotics. You're right. It will be next few years. We'll see a lot more of that in the Nobel Peace Prizes. You're right about that.
Not just the Nobel Peace Prize.
Oh
It'll
yeah,
be in the actual Nobel Prize for various fields. They're not all called the Nobel Peace Prize in medicine or whatever.
yeah.
It's just a Nobel Prize in medicine. The
I
Peace
always
Prize is a different award.
That's true. I always thought for the longest time like the Peace Prize was just everything like the Nobel. Yeah, you're right. Nobel Peace Prize in physics and stuff. But okay, I'm sadly mistaken. Just trying to get to the next topic. Next topic, you've got a story about game piracy and how it's costing the games industry.
Yeah, a new study titled The Revenue Effects of Denuvo Digital Rights Management on PC Video Games,
Hmm.
published in the journal Entertainment Computing, examining 86 Denuvo protected games released between 2014 and the end of 2022.
Wait, just 80.
Has,
Wait, just 86?
yeah,
Wow.
it's a
Okay.
representative sample,
Oh, okay. Yeah, fair enough.
and it also looks specifically at Denuvo defended games, which isn't every game because Denuvo costs a lot of money. It
Okay.
estimates that piracy costs game developers 20% of their revenue.
Wow. On the surface level, 20% doesn't really sound that much, but when you look at it when you look at it deeper, that's 20%. That's a lot of money.
Yeah. So they were looking at these games which during a 12-week sales period, because with most games, you
Mm,
get very heavily front loaded sales.
yeah.
And after 12 weeks, new sales are considered negligible for most games. And they
Okay.
compared that with games where there were cracks available before the 12-week period,
Uh-huh.
well, within the 12-week period.
Okay.
But because it's difficult to find sales data for most games,
Yeah.
they decided to proxy that data by looking at Steam reviews. So the number of reviews each week would be a portion of the number of sales that were made that week.
Yeah,
And
but
they assume that the number of reviews as a proportion of sales remains constant over time.
how would you like differentiate which one is the actual review and which one's just a dud review?
What do you mean by dud review?
Like it'd be like a review, for example, would be like, okay, this game has all these faults. You like section it up like this gameplay, the gameplay, the soundtrack, or the AI for the opponents, for example, if you're playing a shooter, for example. Like you would say, like those would a dud review would just be like, oh, this game is shit. It doesn't really give any give any like further detail.
That's irrelevant
Oh, okay.
because they're just looking at the absolute number of reviews
Oh, okay.
as a proportion of sales, not the content of the reviews.
Ah.
And he also used the active player count, which is available on Steam
Yep.
for single player narrative games.
Okay.
And the author reckons that this is the biggest limitation of the study, but that the actual numbers seem to cancel out. So
Hmm.
it's probably not a major source of noise.
Okay. So where
So
did the
there's
Oh,
an
sorry.
interesting graph here
Yep.
from the article showing that the 20% number only holds true for the initial release. The longer the game goes without being cracked, the less of an impact that has on your revenue, which makes sense because people get bored of waiting for the crack and go and actually buy the game.
Yeah. And not to mention by then that you not to mention after the game release, there'll be people just going like, you know what? Let me try and crack this game. As a bit of a challenge kind of thing.
I don't think there are many people doing that.
Not any,
Not anymore.
not anymore. Okay. Yeah.
Denuvo is so complicated that there are like two people who are known to be able to crack it, and they don't seem interested in sharing their knowledge with anyone, which is probably a good thing for their legal safety.
Yeah. Yeah.
But on the other hand, if they did release the method that they used to crack it, Denuvo would then turn around and patch that.
Yeah, that's the other point. Yeah, but then wouldn't also be dependent on the type of game it is. Like some games, if let's say for example Stellar Blade, if I recall, there is a like initially before the release they had the demo and it was really good. Like the gore was cool. Like there was a lot of things that weren't put until the patch came out on the first day. And then when the patch came out, people were like, "Oh, I know a way how you can bypass that patch. Just go offline and play it."
Wait, they released Stellar Blade without DRM?
Yeah.
Oops. I've heard of a few games doing that.
Oh yeah, yeah. So what does it say with about the games industry with that much of a loss?
Well, it shows that after 12 weeks,
Mm,
because new sales are so negligible, the number of pirates out there waiting to pirate the game are also negligible. So you could remove DRM after 12 weeks and see basically no loss monetarily. And you could even have a gain from DRM averse consumers.
mm.
There are a lot of people out there who refuse to buy games with DRM, so the those people will come in and buy a game once the DRM is removed. And a lot of devs have been doing that because Denuvo costs you money for as long as you keep it in the game. So there comes a point where it's not worth keeping Denuvo in, and they will release a version of the game without Denuvo.
How much does it actually cost? Do you know, like from an aspiring game dev's point of view?
I don't know because whatever it costs is beyond what I can afford, and I think it's kept fairly close to their chest.
Okay. And is it just what is the cost of DRM just one cost covers all kind of thing, like, or is it just depending on which companies you're working from? Like
No,
if
it's a
you're
subscription.
it's a subscription, okay,
Yeah, for Denuvo DRM, there's a subscription cost,
okay.
which is why eventually it becomes cheaper to release DRM free and take the hit from piracy than it is to keep Denuvo in.
So it's a lot. It's kind of like a Mexican standoff in a sense, you know. Like, okay, do I do I keep the do I use DRM and lose money, or do I don't use DRM and lose to piracy? Which one should I pick?
Yeah, you've got to first decide, are the people who don't want to pay for DRM games, who don't want to buy DRM games, are they more or less than the faction who will pirate my game if I release it without DRM? And then balance that over how that changes over time. But I think it also points out what's been said for years by DRM creators, that even if your game gets cracked after a couple of months, you're still better off having DRM because it gets you those initial sales. And then there's a snowball effect. If you get more sales in your first week, you'll be pushed higher up the Steam charts, which will then get you more sales. One of the big things about releasing a game on Steam, or any other store really,
Yeah,
is getting it to the top of the recently released list because it will actually get you buyers.
and it also depends on the type of game, wouldn't it?
How so?
Like when how you were mentioning earlier, like for example, Black Myth Wukong, for example, when the game came out, there was like huge it was huge, and I bet you like if it was a different game, it would not you would not get that much success. Like Concord, for example, when that game came out, the success wasn't that big.
I don't see how that's relevant to DRM though.
Oh, okay. I was just thinking more like how you said in terms of getting the game big in on from the get go.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you're looking at an issue there because games like, well, it's not really relevant to the DRM discussion because games like Concord, the
Mm.
DRM is the game that
Yeah.
you have to connect to a multiplayer server, play online. It's a different kind of DRM than Denuvo, which is focused on single player games, which tend to be easier to pirate because you don't need to talk back to the server.
Ah, okay. So with this discussion though, could you say could you see DRM being being more heavily implemented in the near future, or you reckon that there needs to be more DRM should be a thing of the past essentially?
Well, I understand the need for DRM.
Hmm.
I don't like it though. As someone who likes to have control over my computer, which is why I've switched to Linux, and who doesn't like, I understand the need for anti cheat in DRM, but I don't like having software running on my computer that could be doing anything. And these software anti cheat and DRM are very secretive because that's how they keep themselves secure.
Yeah. The way you say it, it makes it sound like DRM is just like a money grubbing exercise, like you see in like mobster movies. Like, all right, pay me your protection, give me a protection.
Well, that would be true if Denuvo was going around pirating games that don't pay for it.
Yeah.
But I doubt that's happening because if it did, it would get leaked, and that is something that would be extremely legally dubious.
Oh, by the way, with Steam, did you hear this morning about Steam in terms of Steam's now doing a new disclosure saying that you don't own the game, you just own the license.
Well, that's in response to a new law in California. And the reason for that, I think, is that's a good thing for consumer rights. Because, yeah, one of the things about DRM is that a game with DRM is also harder to preserve.
Oh,
And as a vocal supporter of Stop Killing Games, that means that a game with DRM is going to be harder to find in 10 years, even if it even if it doesn't get shut down.
so
Because in
you're
10 or 20 years,
yeah.
when you can't buy the game anymore, if it's not cracked, you won't be able to borrow a copy off your friend. If
Hmm.
the DRM servers aren't available, you won't be able to play the game.
Yeah, and I think I think that's where the piracy would come in, like as a useful thing in terms of game preservation. Like, can you imagine just like, oh, I've got this Doom game and it's a DRM free game. And it's preserved and you will never see it in any other store.
Yeah. Funnily enough, you picked Doom because Doom is one of the games that ditched Denuvo after a couple of months.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, when I think it was Doom Eternal. I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So, in relation to this report, have anyone, has any game developers, have replied to this, responded to this report from what you have seen?
I haven't seen, but it's a fairly new report that's only just
Okay.
been released.
Okay. So, on to our final topic. What do you think of Hollywood's direction so far, Professor?
You're going to have to be more specific than that.
Okay, what do you think of the business of Hollywood in terms of how the progression of of movies and the progression of the industry in general?
I think that Hollywood is trying to run itself into the ground economically
All right.
by, how do I explain this? By cancelling popular shows that don't meet some bar for being the most popular ever. I think that's really bad because if something doesn't meet this bar in the first week of its release, it gets cancelled immediately. It
Yeah.
never gets a chance to pick up a cult following. And even shows that have been finished and completed, so they've dumped all this money into it, they can cancel it and write it off and decide that the cost of throwing it all away is less than the cost of distribution, which makes sense from a sunk cost fallacy viewpoint.
Okay.
But it also, I think, hampers the view of this as art.
Okay. That's an interesting way of putting it. Okay. So the reason why I asked you that question is because one big investor named Saganski went to Hollywood and has decided to talk about this in terms of the decisions Hollywood have made become unbelievably cataclysmic in the business. And he continues on by saying, "You're seeing the traditional business collapse." The way he's saying it, he said it was, "You're seeing all this predatory behavior from streamers, and the two of them together are causing unbelievable cataclysm in the business that we both love." So one example he says is the $150 billion value of business in terms of revenues, noting the major sports like the NBA, MLB, and NFL alone represent a $40 billion business, much smaller by contrast. And the veterans also predicted that the four leading streamers would form a entertainment oligop olio
Oligarchy?
yeah or oligopoly.
Okay, yeah, that's the correct form of the word.
Yeah, that is likely to draw scrutiny from government regulators. And he's highlighted the total loss of 190 billion in value in the stock prices of the entertainment companies, including Warner, Disney, and Paramount, noting that TV, the traditional driver of the entertainment industry for half the century, has lost almost half of its audience. Now that's a very, very crazy thing. I mean, I agree with you in terms of how TV is lost a lot of its audience. I mean, who knew?
Well, they also didn't have to compete with games 40 years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
And we also have access to the massive backlog of pre existing content.
Hmm,
So it makes sense that the new content viewership numbers are suffering.
yeah.
But they seem to be failing to adapt to that.
Another CEO has also come out noting that amidst the mass layoffs, steep cuts in production, and an anxious search for streaming profitability contributes to the uncertainty in Hollywood more than ever. I mean, you also had to look at the how much the strikes cost. Like it cost the industry billions of dollars, if I recall. Like how much was the writer's strike cost in the end? It was that one was oh, it's a compare they were either saying it's some say it's a $6 billion loss, some saying it's a $1.4 billion loss. Okay.
Well, as it should. The whole point of a strike is to cost money to get to bargain for better conditions.
Yeah. And you are right about the whole backlog of old TV shows because Sa- Saganski also say that he was astounded by how entertainment companies got to this point by pushing their film and TV libraries into Netflix in response to the decline of the DVD market in the late 2000s and early 2010. And he quotes, "When streaming starts, people have a choice they can make, and so they make it." So what does cable do? They raise their prices. They produce less programming at a time when the building was on fire, and then they looked at their cash cow and said, "Okay, it's over," and that was a fundamental mistake.
Well, he sounds very rational.
And he also says that you have to find your way through to be active in your own rescue. This is another person said that, by the way. Don't wait for the government to give you a clear path. Create your own path. If you don't, you'll be in the dustbin of history. And also, interestingly enough, they both discussed the potential impact of AI on filmmaking, how it will expand or curtail opportunities for filmmakers. Guess what was the response to that argument?
Go on, what was it?
So one person said that so the actor and director Justine Bateman said that AI would burn the industry to the ground by eliminating numerous job functions. CTO of Gladstone AI predicted that Hollywood would break off into a two-pronged system of those supporting and not supporting AI implementations. And another panel that called on the industry to take a long view on AI and be peers to big tech in the exploitation of it. So it is kind of interesting. It's kind of diverting in a sense with the AI argument.
Yeah,
But what do you reckon though with AI? What do you reckon with AI? Like I know we've bashed on AI for so long in terms of entertainment. Do you reckon when you look at if you look at one person's point of view, saying like look at it from the long game perspective, I think there's the inevitability that AI will play a big part, but I don't think it will fully take over Hollywood in the long run.
I think it will eventually.
Yeah, but come on, can you actually see an AI actor or an AI actress?
Yeah, people have been trying to do that for years and it's flopped because the technology just isn't there yet.
Okay,
We're
I'll grant.
closer than we've ever been,
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I'll grant you
but we're
that.
still a long way off.
Yeah, I'll grant you that. But then, come on, like honestly, can you see like red carpet events with your favorite AI actor? It's like look at this AI model number 55 coming to the red carpet. Sir, do you have anything to say? Nothing happened. Nothing. They just walk away.
Are we going to care about that?
Not really. Although, okay, I would laugh if AI wins like an Academy Award.
I
That would
think
be
we're even further from that happening. First, the AI has to become accepted.
Yep. I think it'll be with that. I think that will happen within our lifetimes. That we'll get an AI winning an award. Anyways, we'll be back after a short break and with the shout outs and the wacky movie. So on to
We
our
never took a break. We were right here the whole time.
God damn it. Anyways, on to our shout outs where we talk about things that happened this week. On the 6th of October 2024, it's the 10th anniversary of Alien Isolation, a 2014 survival horror game developed by Creative Assembly and published by Sega for the PS3, PS4, Windows 3, Xbox 360, and Xbox. Based on the Alien film series, the game is set 15 years after the 1979 film and follows the engineer Amanda Ripley, voiced by Andrea Deck. Amanda investigates the disappearance of her mother, Ellen Ripley, aboard the space station Sevastopol, which has fallen into disarray due to an alien creature on the loose. The game emphasizes stealth and survival horror gameplay, requiring the player to avoid, outsmart, and fight enemies with tools such as a motion tracker and flamethrower.
And they've just announced a sequel.
Oh, they did? Oh,
Yep.
that is awesome. So Creative Assembly, which is best known for their work on the Total War strategy video games, the game was based on the series from 20th Century Fox and was conceived when Creative Assembly finished Viking Battle for Asgard in 2008 after the publisher Sega acquired the rights to develop the Alien games in December 2006. A six-person team developed the first prototype to pitch the idea, and it ballooned up to 100 by 2014. Although, mind you, Creative Assembly has had no experience with survival horror games, and it hired people from studios such as Bizarre Creations, BlackRock, Crytek, Ubisoft, and Real Time World. Damn, that's impressive. Wait, but isn't this the game that people hated it as well?
I don't remember anyone hating it,
They-
apart from people who were just too scaredy cat.
So the alien was designed to look similar to the H.R. Geiger's original design, including the skull underneath its transparent head. However, designers did alter its humanoid legs with recurved ones to provide the alien a walk cycle that would hold up to scrutiny during longer encounters with the player. The gameplay designer Gary Napper said, "We needed something that would be different every time you play it. You are going to die a lot, which means restarting a lot. And if the alien was scripted, you would see the same behavior that makes the alien becomes predictable and a lot less scary." Oh yeah, isn't this the game that had like all you need to do was fix the code and the alien would be very scary?
No, that's Colonial Marines,
Ah, okay,
where
yep.
there was a typo in a configuration file.
Oh Jesus.
Yeah.
And the developer originally planned to add a feature that would allow players to craft weapons, but the idea was ultimately discarded. According to Hope, we thought about what people would want to do in order to survive. We explored different ideas, and one of them was fashioning weapons to defend yourself. That was quite early on, but then we realized this game isn't really about pulling the trigger. Oh, really? That would have been so cool, though. That would
No,
have
they were
been.
definitely going for more of an alien vibe than aliens.
Yeah, but like, okay, Dead Space had that similar type of mechanic though. Like, you can create your weapon from scratch, and it worked well in a horror game.
Only in Dead Space 3, and a
Okay,
lot of people complained about it at the time.
really? Why?
I'm not sure, I never played the Dead Space series.
Okay, fair enough. Another cancelled feature was the alien's iconic acid blood from the game mechanic, which could melt through metal like in the film. Although the feature was reportedly implemented at one point, it was removed because the developers felt that it would take the game in a weird direction. I don't know what you mean by that, guys.
Yeah.
Hope explained the game is played from a first-person perspective. It was developed for a considerable amount in third person. Hope explained that in a third-person view, Alien Isolation would have become a game about jockeying the camera and looking after your avatar. But in the first person, it's you that's being hunted. If you're hiding behind an object and you want to get a better view of your surroundings, you have to move. Well, I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah, I've never been a huge fan of third person, especially in shooter games.
Hmm, fair enough.
You know, it works better in melee games,
Yeah,
because then you can have your character do all sorts of cool sword moves, but you're not going to give your player motion sickness.
yeah. And plus, with aliens, if I recall, like they do have to do a lot of melee stuff as well.
Yeah, in the original, they didn't really have any weapons. In Aliens, they had guns, but there were a lot of scenes where they couldn't use the guns for various reasons.
Yeah. On the 11th of October 2024 is the 50th anniversary of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This was a 1974 American independent horror film produced, composed, and directed by Tobe Hooper, who co-wrote it with Kim Hankel. The film stars Marilyn Burns, Paul A. Partine, Edward Neal, Jim Seidel, and Gunnar Henson. The plot follows a group of friends who fall victim to a family of cannibals while on their way to visit an old homestead. The film was marketed as being based on the true events to attract a wider audience and to act as a subtle commentary on this era's political climate. Although the character of Leatherface and minor story details were inspired by the crimes of murderer Ed Gein, its plot is largely fictional. And I saw some of the themes for this movie. Uh, so they talk about the contemporary American life, the violence portrayed in movies, and vegetarianism. As someone posted that this movie is the ultimate pro-vegetarian film due to animal rights themes.
Fair enough. I've never seen it, so I can't comment on that.
Fair enough. Fair enough. The concept of Texas Chainsaw arose in the 1970s while Tobe Hooper was working as an assistant film director at the University of Texas as a documentary cameraman. He has already developed a story involving the elements of isolation, the woods, and darkness. He got the inspiration for the film based on the elements of the murderer Ed Gein, who committed his crimes in 1950s Wisconsin. Gein inspired other two horror films such as Psycho and The Silence of the Lambs. During developer, Hooper used the working titles of Head Cheese and Leatherface. And he also cited the changes in the cultural and political landscape as the central influence of the film. His intentional misinformation that the film you are about to see is true was a response to being lied to by the government about things that were going all over the world, including Watergate, the 1973 oil crisis, and massacres and atrocities in the Vietnam War. The lack of sentimentality and brutality of things that Hooper noticed while watching the local news, whose graphic coverage was epitomized by, quote, showing brains spilled all over the road, led to his belief that man was the real monster here, just wearing a different face, so I put a literal face on the monster of my film. The idea of using a chainsaw was as a murder weapon came to Hooper when he was in the hardware section of a busy store contemplating how to speed his way through a crowd. Well, that's one way of putting it.
Yep.
Icelandic American actor Gunnar Henson was selected for the role of Leatherface. He regarded Leatherface as having an intellectual disability and never learned to speak properly. To research his character in preparation for his role, Hansen visited a special needs school and watched how the students moved and spoke. John Larroquette performed the narration in the opening credits, for which he was paid in marijuana. Man, that would have been a cool pay.
Still illegal, though.
Yeah, fair enough. Surprisingly, this film is one of the least bloody horror films of all time. For years, rumors persisted that the director intended to make the movie a PG rating by keeping the violence moderate, language mild, and excluding nudity entirely, and having most of the horror implied off-screen rather than showing in great detail on screen. Oh, and also, Marilyn Burns, whose character was chased by Leatherface throughout the undergrowth, actually cut herself on the branches quite badly, so a lot of the blood on her body and clothes are real. And also, Del Toro became vegetarian after seeing the film. Well, that's scary.
Yep.
On the 11th of October 1984, aboard the Space Shuttle Challenger, astronaut Catherine D. Sullivan became the first American woman to perform a spacewalk, and this was 40 years ago today. Sullivan, who had celebrated her 33rd birthday just 8 days before the spacewalk, conducted the history-making exercise as part of the Space Shuttle Challenger mission STS-41G. She also performed the first extravehicular activity with fellow mission specialist David Lestmar. The spacewalk was 3.5 hours, in which they operated the ORS to show that a satellite can be refueled in orbit. They installed a valve in the satellite propulsion system that mimicked that of the Landsat 4 and transferred 59 kilos, which is 130 pounds, of hydrazine to it using the ORS. This demonstrated that the procedure can be performed with a real satellite. That's amazing.
Yeah, they don't do it anymore. Obviously, they don't have the shuttles left to do it,
Yeah.
but it is an amazing achievement to refuel a satellite. I mean, docking anything in space is an amazing achievement.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Yeah. So, Professor, what's a messed up moment in nerddom? This, by the way, this is number 30.
Do you know Andrew Wakefield?
No.
He's a former doctor who, to promote his own vaccine, created a study that fraudulently claimed a link between the MMR vaccine and autism.
I've vaguely heard about this.
Yeah, he's
Vaguely.
basically the source of all of the anti vaxxers these days.
Oh, what? No.
Yeah, he faked the study that MMR vaccines cause autism to promote his own vaccine, which was an alternative to the MMR, and is responsible for causing so many issues we deal with today.
Don't tell me there's a more messed up moment about this. How did he do that though?
So he was the study that he published was a study of 12 children with autism and basically proposed a syndrome called autistic enterocolitis and suggested that there was a link between that autism and the MMR vaccine, and also that the children with autism basically only began to be autistic after getting the vaccine. Which, funny
Huh.
coincidence, at the time when you got the vaccine was around the age when you'd get diagnosed with autism.
Okay.
So it's not that the vaccine causes autism, it's that it happens at the same time and it just looks like it does.
Huh.
Whereas newer medicine acknowledges that autism is a thing from birth.
Okay. Huh. That's really messed up though. Really, really messed up.
Yeah.
So what was the fallout from his study from his study and recommendation?
Um, he was eventually he eventually resigned after being shamed, then moved to the US and became an anti-vax promoter.
Ah.
So he refused to acknowledge that he had committed fraud and then went on to go and double down on it.
So messed up. Oh. Anyway, so on to our wacky movie. On the 11th of October 1985, Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome premiered in Finland and Sweden. This sci-fi thriller starred Mel Gibson as Max himself, and here is the plot. After being exiled from the most advanced town in post-apocalyptic Australia, a drifter travels with a group of abandoned children to rebel against the town's queen, who is acted by Tina Turner.
Yes, it's the least popular Mad Max movie, probably because it doesn't feature the car.
Aw.
It's the only Mad Max movie that features Max and not the car. I haven't seen Furiosa, but I assume that doesn't include the car because I know it doesn't include Max.
The exterior filming location took place in the mining town of Cooper PD. Through the set for Bartertown was built at an old brickworks at Homebush Bay in Sydney's western suburbs, and the children's camp was in the Blue Mountains. According to the cinematographer Dean Semler, Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome proved far more challenging than Mad Max 2. We were dealing with more varied environments than before, and it was essential that each of the worlds created for the film have a distinctly different look. This was the most expensive Australian film of all at the time, and the sandstorm at the end of the film was real, and a camera plane flew to it for some shots. The storm in its entirety hit the crew in the desert, forcing them to ride it out in their cars and wherever they could find cover. Oh man, can you imagine being on that day, being part of the production crew? Oh, that would have sucked.
Yeah, I've been in a sandstorm.
Oh.
Sand gets everywhere.
How long do they last though? Do they last long, or is it just like 5 minutes later? Okay, cool. Sandstorm's over.
Uh, in my experience, it was a few hours.
Really?
Yeah,
What the fuck did you? What did you do in that sandstorm during that few hours?
hid in a car for as much good as that did.
What
That
did you?
car still
Oh, sorry.
nearly 15 years later still has desert dust in it.
No way! What the hell?
Yeah, it was a camper van really,
Okay.
a Toyota Land Cruiser camper van,
Yeah.
and a few years back, ripping parts out to do upgrades and stuff,
Mhm.
there was still desert dust behind them.
Oh shit! Let me guess. Did the insurance cover for it?
Oh, there was no damage.
Ah, I mean, you could technically call it. You could technically call it's technically damage in a sense. I mean, like if your engine's not running properly because of sand, you could technically call it insured. You can technically get insured. Or get
Probably, but I don't think we had any problems with the engine.
okay, fair enough.
I was lucky though. I got to stay in the car while my dad changed a flat tire.
Oh, dad! Your dad must have been pissed afterwards. Like,
Yeah, it was covered in sand.
oh man! I bet you, as soon as he finished the tire change, he just went, "Not another word, son. Not another word."
Not quite.
Was it just you and him in
It
that?
was my whole family.
Oh damn!
We did a trip through the Simpson Desert,
Oh,
through to the Pebbles Corner, which is the
okay,
corner where South Australia meets Queensland
okay,
and the Northern Territory. I think. I think that's the one called Pebbles Corner.
okay. Is it Pebbles as in Pebbles, Flintstone?
No, it's Pepple as in Poepel.
Oh, oh, Purple Corner.
Yeah, that's one way you could pronounce it.
Yeah. Okay.
But
Ah,
these corners in of the Australian states are usually named after the surveyors who identified them.
okay. So for a time, you were in three states at once.
Yeah,
So in the movie, Tina Turner had to shave her head for her wig to fit properly. She reportedly had no problem with that. And the possible outcomes on the wheel in the movie, they were acquittal, amputation, auntie's choice, death, forfeit goods, gulag, hard labor, life imprisonment, spit again, and the underworld. Man, that would have been a great job. That would have been great.
yeah. Let's just bring back punishment by Colosseum.
I bet you though, like the spin again option, it must be very tiny on the wheel. like what are the chances of getting spin again? Wait a second. The script calls for Auntie Entity to drive a vehicle. All of the vehicles were built manual transmission, which Tina Turner couldn't drive. So a car equipped with an automatic transmission had to be constructed. Oh, can you imagine post-apocalyptic time? The likelihood of finding an automatic car.
Yep, especially post-apocalypse in the 80s.
That would not end well. And the film was intended to be the final chapter of the Mad Max franchise, with Mel Gibson bowing out of the role of Max and ending with Max regaining his humanity and walking away into the sunset. So it was until George Miller made a third sequel, Mad Max Fury Road. And this movie was also famous for that one classic song. We don't need another hero. You remember that song?
Yes, I do. And you are no Tina Turner.
I know. That's I know that for a fact. Anyways, yeah. On that note, that's all we have for this week. Stay happy, stay nerdy, and see you soon.
Look after yourself, stay hydrated, and we'll see you next time.